think Americans and our allies need to understand the margin's a lot smaller than they think it is. Gap between the world we want and the world we could inherit if we move slowly, it's not large, and that gap's closing. But this is the decade that decides it.
Okay, welcome to RunRate, candid conversations with people at the top of their game. I'm your host, Kyle Widrick. Today's guest is someone that I've known for a long time, John Tenet, founder and CEO of Chaos Industries, a next-generation defense technology company developing advanced hardware, software, and autonomous systems for U.S. and allied militaries. Chaos recently announced a fundraise valuing the company north of $4 billion. We will unpack the road it took to get there and what's ahead. John is previously a co-founder of Epirus, a former partner at 8VC, where he helped build out the firm's defense tech investment practice, responsible for early investments, including Anduril, amongst others. We'll dig into what's changing in defense, why this moment matters, and how John thinks about building in a category that historically hasn't moved quickly, but suddenly seems to be moving at warp speed. John, happy to have you.
Hey, thanks for having me, buddy. Man, it's, you know what, dude, I think we're coming up on our 10-year friend anniversary. I think we met Drew Oding introduced us in 2016, I think, at Lafayette, New York.
Was it Drew? I thought, for some reason, I was thinking
Ruben.
Andrew
I think
Rubin
Andrew.
was the
I think
guy.
it was Andrew Rubin. I think it was the both of them. But I do specifically remember Drew connecting us, the great and powerful Drew Oding, who runs 8VC with Joe Lonsdale, one of my closest buddies. But man, no, it's been, and just, congratulations on all your success. Watching your ascension's been awesome. One of my favorite people to root for, and you're absolutely shooting the lights out right now.
Thank you, man. Awesome to have you. You are the reason that I have dipped my toe into investing in defense tech. Obviously, you have a long history there. You've had a lot of success, both investing and now starting Chaos. I'd love to kind of kick off with, for non-technical, non-defense tech folks, like, how do you describe Chaos Industries and what you all do and what you build?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. My mom always tells me that she doesn't understand the company when I explain it to her. So I think, we'll lay it out pretty simply. So, at the core of what we do is we build systems that find threats, track them, and kill them. Radar and sensing, kinetic and non-kinetic effectors. And we integrate with legacy systems already in the field. So the military does not have to choose between what they have and what they need. I think sort of if you look at the last 10 to 12 years, the threat got cheap, fast, ubiquitous. A $500 drone can kill a $10 million truck. The answer is seeing it coming and being able to stop it. That's the mission, and we aim to own the kill chain.
Got it. And I assume, and we've talked more about this, your team is world-class. You kind of grew up in the space and have spent a lot of time in space, but how did you recruit the team over? Where did they come from? How did that work?
Look, you said it. I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. I think we have the best team in the game. I have two of the best co-founders in the entire world. So Bo, Dr. Bo Marr and Brett Cummings are my two co-founders. Bo and I started Epirus together while I was 8VC. So when I moved over there, I was working for Valar Ventures, which is one of Peter Thiel's firms in New York. And that's actually where I made the first Anduril investment. I was part of this original seed round when I was there.
Amazing.
Reconnected with Joe Lonsdale, sort of on that cap table. He brought me over to 8VC. The 8VC crew. We've been buddies with those guys for a long time. Jake, Drew, Alex Moore, the whole gang. And so mandate was twofold: was keep investing in Anduril, get into the Series A, Series B, and beyond. But then look at other companies to invest in.
Anduril early days, if I remember, it was more about border protection initially, right? So what did you see in that investment? Was it Palmer? Did they have a longer term vision kind of built out from the get-go versus, today I think they just got valued at, what was it, 60 billion? I mean, they've come a long way since that investment.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Let's see. What was it? So one, like, known Trey for a long time,
Yeah.
Trey Stevens. So I think a lot of it early on was uh Trey and Palmer. I think, that investment and others sort of like it all pointed in the same direction to me. The next generation of defense capability was not going to come from the incumbent primes. It was going to come from founders willing to build from scratch and go risk on. And at some point, you've got to decide whether you want to fund that future or build it. And so I kind of chose to fund and build it at the same time when I was at APC, because sort of at that time there weren't many other companies to invest in. And like my basic view with Joe and team was, all right, like if we want to get good at this, we got to start a company. So that's when we started Epirus. That's when I met Bo. Bo was at Raytheon at the time. He was the youngest RF tech director in the company's history. I think he was on fast track becoming CTO of Raytheon. I think he was on the short list to become CEO there. Every sort of major program that is pointed at the bad guys in places in the world, he built, had a hand in building, recruited the teams that built it. I think he's probably the best technical mind of our generation. And so he and I met. He was sharing some of the same angst from a different side, like being inside the belly of the beast. And by the way, like Raytheon North, like they do things, they do some really good things, right? I'm not.
Well, it takes a lot of companies in the space to give everything that the U.S. defense tech needs. You need the old legacies and you need the new tier ones.
Yeah, but I think what we were seeing. So from my side, there's that Google revolt about Project Maven, which really disturbed me. And then it sort of became like in vogue in Silicon Valley in that time to not work with the DoD, not work with the government, which really bothered me for a whole host of reasons. I think what Bo was seeing at that time, and by the way, Brett, who's our third co-founder, Brett was the founding CFO of APC as well. So Brett and I were working really closely together. He sort of had a front row seat to us starting the company in the office. So there's real connectivity between the three of us over the last decade or so. But I think what Bo was seeing from his side was the root problem was like the business model, which is cost plus contracting, which means the government pays whatever it costs to build something plus a guaranteed profit margin, and your profits are a percentage of those costs. So you have zero incentive to reduce costs and every incentive to grow them. And the defense primes did not become slow and expensive because they're bad companies. They became slow and expensive because the system paid them to be. And so I think that's where Bo and I sort of connected. Strand House in Manhattan Beach, shout out. That's our inception story. But yeah, so I think that's where he and I connected and decided to make a go of it with the first company together.
Yeah, look, I remember, you and I were chatting. I had started a holding company. You were just ideating on what chaos would be, name, logo. It doesn't seem like that long ago. And fast forward today,
4 years in June, man. It goes quickly.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And why, just for folks that are not in the space, when you go back to the Anduril investment, I think, defense tech was a space that folks cared about then, but not nearly as much. It wasn't nearly as hot as it is today. What has changed in the market to make it move so quickly in the last, let's say, 2 to 3 years?
I think it's a multitude. It's a multitude of things. I think sort of at the core, we didn't start it because of any specific conflict, but we started the company and Bo and I really started ideating on it because the physics and sort of the economics of warfare sort of are kind of what made this outcome inevitable. Concentrated, exquisite static systems were always going to be targeted first, and we're always going to put our troops at risk. And the question wasn't if a conflict was going to break out, it was when it was going to break out. And again, it's like we weren't predicting the future, but spending the time in the space that we had spent, we kind of saw the trends shifting this direction. And that's when we sort of sat down basically the discussion was, look, like we need to build, like we look at the world in three waves here. Like the last 25 years, it's like wave one, you had Palantir and SpaceX, like wave two, you had Anduril, and we felt very strongly that there needed to be another large company in the space to help get into the fight.
Sure. And when you kind of arrange the chessboard of defense
Mhm,
tech companies, you have the
mhm,
Palantirs and SpaceXs.
mhm.
You have Anduril that's done extraordinarily well. I think, at least as the press reports, they were given a $20 billion government contract over this past weekend.
Yeah, I saw something about that.
Yeah, you would know more about that than me, but when you compare yourself to some of the others in the space and kind of lay out
Yeah,
the chessboard, do all of you end up doing a little bit of the same stuff? Like, do you have overlap with Anduril? Like, where are the lines of who does what best?
yeah.
And as you all grow and become,
Hmm.
multi-billion-dollar businesses, how do you keep that straight?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think my meta answer is I don't think a single company wins this. I think, the arsenal of democracy in the 20th century is not one factory. It was thousands of companies solving complex pieces of the same problem. And I think, there's going to be areas where we partner with companies like Palantir or Anduril or Forterra. And then there's going to be other lanes where, we do certain things really well, they do certain things really well. And so I think, like, from that perspective, we want to forge partnerships, do the integrations, deliver full stack capabilities so the warfighters don't have to do it, right? At the end of the day, like, we owe our warfighters. We owe them the best systems, the best technology. We owe them a lot, and we all have to perform.
Yeah, it was interesting. I was up at TED last year. I watched Palmer give a talk where he talked about, basically mutually assured destruction, with his kind of simulations of playing that out. And so it seems like part of the defense game is, showing and maintaining and making sure that you have strength
Hmm.
and dominance and being able to show that without having to use it, right?
Yep.
I know that a lot of the game has gone now to, as you said, drones, cheaper, faster, as opposed to the legacy systems.
Yep.
Um, you know, is there a world where I think Palmer talked a little bit about how you have folks remote, kind of operating remote, as opposed to boots on the ground? Have you seen that? Are you seeing that? Is that a part of chaos strategy go forward as well?
Yeah. I mean, I think Palmer's right about the core premise there. I think deterrence works when the cost of aggression exceeds the expected gain.
Yep.
And he's right that mass producible autonomous systems change the math of what it costs to levy an attack. And I agree with that direction. I think where I might sharpen the argument is I think deterrence is only as credible as the sensor network behind it. You can have the most lethal autonomous effectors in the world. But if you can't see the threat, sequence it, assign it in time, those systems become expensive inventory. And I think the kill chain starts with sensing. It starts with detection, tracking, and classification at machine speed. That's the layer which the current architecture gets wrong, and I think it's the layer that an adversary will target first because they know it. I
Mm,
mean, I think if you look at what's happening right now in the Middle East, the adversary didn't try to defeat our effectors head on. They went after the radars. They went after the sensor stack. They went after the eyes. And the weapons that did it cost less than a used car. And that's not a scenario where showing your most sophisticated capability deters the other side.
yep.
That's a scenario where the other side found the seam. So, I mean, I guess I'd say, deterrence is necessary, but it's not sufficient. You need the mass and the autonomy Palmer talks about, but you also need sensor architecture that can't be decapitated by a handful of cheap weapons. And that's what our distributed networks solve. And you can't deter an adversary by having the best system. You have to have a system that they can't kill.
Again, you've looked at this from the inside and the outside, and now you're building. But for a non-defense tech, let's say a defense tech enthusiast like myself, it's fascinating the progress that's been made the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Um, when you think about the current, geopolitical environment, Ukraine, the Middle East.
Mhm.
Um, I think back 2, 3 years before things have really heated up over the last months and
Yeah.
year. Um, how does that affect your product roadmap as far as what's actively going on around the world?
Yeah, so I mean, I can take Ukraine, so I could take Middle East as a case study, and then Ukraine is like proof of concept. Like, um, I think so. What we're seeing in the Middle East right now, it's the vulnerability of large fixed radar systems and expensive countermeasures in an era of cheap distributed autonomous drones and precision strike. Pentagon confirmed that adversary strikes destroyed radar infrastructure worth hundreds of millions of dollars, maybe even upwards of billions of dollars per site. Multiple radar and SATCOM installations across the region have been hit. You gotta like I can't drive this home enough, right? Like the weapons doing this damage cost between 30,000 and 50,000 bucks. That's a cost asymmetry of 10,000 to 30,000 to one. Coalition partners burned through over 800 Patriot missiles in these days. Lockheed produced 620 Patriot missiles all of last year. So this isn't a technology problem; it's an architecture problem. Um, and the lesson is that the sensor layer has to become far more distributed, and our effects in terms of how we prosecute these threats need to be produced much faster and at a much lower cost. Um, I think when you look at Ukraine from a proof of concept perspective, Ukraine started as a conventional war and quickly became something new in real time. As munitions ran low, both sides had to adapt, right? Cheap commercial drones, many of them Chinese made, became primary weapons. So that shift happened in months, not years, right? Ukraine proved that the future of warfare is accessible, and 19-year-old kids in their mom's kitchens were doing damage to Russian forces. And we've been downrange, we've been front lines in Ukraine, like we've seen this firsthand. Um, so I think detection and defeat of small unmanned aerial systems is no longer a niche capability. It's the baseline requirement. Um, and then how does this move into China? Well, look, China's building at a pace we haven't seen since the Second World War. Ships, sensors, missiles, drones, AI, all at industrial scale, all moving fast. If the Chinese achieve sensor superiority in the Pacific, traditional warfighting concepts just aren't going to hold. Full stop. Japan, South Korea, the Philippines, their security calculus changes overnight, and it's a big problem. So the question, is not just can we defend Taiwan? It's whether our partners believe we can. And can we do it at scale? Can we do it quickly enough? Credibility is the deterrent. You lose it and the dominoes move without a shot fired. And so we don't outproduce China by matching them unit for unit. We out innovate them with cheaper systems, smarter networks, faster iteration. And that's the only path that's going to make the math work for us. Right. And the Chinese are watching all of this, and candidly, we can't live in, I refuse to live in a world where the Chinese surpass us technologically or militarily. Just not on our watch, man.
Let's jump into a little bit of opinion territory. And you're a guest that gets the unique privilege of either saying something is, off limits because you can't talk about it, off limits because it's actually privileged information. But, I've read and heard a lot of different opinions about what's going on in Iran. Um, I've heard it's more about Israel. I've heard it's more about China. Obviously, on the surface, you would just say it's us looking to our future and dismantling a potential threat.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have an opinion about kind of what's going on and maybe then where things are headed?
Yeah, look, so I think pretty simply put, I'm not a policymaker, and I'm not going to be calling shots from my boardroom here, right? I think there's people that understand geopolitics and warfare and these issues, sort of from policy perspective better than I do. I think what I would say is that, the threats that I've talked about aren't going away. Our adversaries around the world are watching. We owe the warfighter the best technology and the best systems possible as quickly as possible. And so that's kind of my why and why I get out of bed in the morning.
Yeah.
I think it's be irresponsible for me to sort of give a hot take or an opinion on it when our job here is to protect the warfighter and our allies.
Yeah, you guys are doing an incredible job. Obviously, I must say that I am a proud investor in Chaos.
Dude,
I
you're
love what you
like
guys are doing.
OG. You're an OG early investor, man. Had to let Special K in the round, you know?
As you said, it's like, look, invest in the people.
Yeah,
You and I have been buddies, and you're
yeah.
obviously very wired into that space, and so appreciate you and what you guys are building.
No,
Um,
we appreciate you and all the support. We've got an amazing cap table, like a very tribally focused group of investors here, very purpose built. So we're honored to have you guys.
Joe Lonsdale, as you said, he's a good buddy. Love Joe.
Yeah,
Um,
the best.
is there, just to go back in opinion category for one more hit,
Hmm.
is there a scenario that worries you the most, that kind of keeps you up at night, that you think about?
What keeps me up at night? Um, it's not technical failure. It's a speed failure, if that makes sense. I think moving too slowly, fielding too late, and handing an adversary an uncontested window, uh, that's the nightmare scenario. That's what keeps me up. That's what keeps Bo up. I know that's what keeps our Ryan McCabe, who's our head of manufacturing. I know that's what keeps him up at night. We're purpose built to move quickly, right? And I think what we're seeing now is, and it's such a breath of fresh air at this administration. Like, the administration gets the joke, right? They understand the need to move fast, and the reforms that are happening over at the Pentagon, through everything that Secretary Hegseth's doing, everything that Emil Michael's doing. It's, they understand that expediency is key here.
Yeah, it's interesting for Trump, who, kind of, if you were rating the war hawk type presidential candidates, he's been really an anti-war guy generally, right? And I think we've seen, again, from the outside in, it feels like he tries to make quick progress, mute potential threats, and move on. Right?
Yep.
I don't think this is meant to be a prolonged war scenario, but obviously you can't control all variables. But with what we saw in Venezuela, what we're now seeing in Iran, I guess for you, how dependent on the defense tech side, administration by administration, like how do you view who's in office and how you work with them?
Look, I mean, I think we're here to work with who's ever in office. Like, we're not a political shop. We're here to serve the warfighter and to serve the country.
Yeah,
So to me, candidly, even though it doesn't it doesn't it doesn't affect our calculus who's in office. Like, our job is to help that person.
yeah,
Whoever's sitting at 1600 is like, we're gonna help.
100%. Uh, that's actually an interesting transition. So you grew up within the security and kind of government lens. Your father, George Tenet, CIA director, I believe under Bush and also under Clinton.
Yep.
That's a good
Yep.
parlay of the two sides of government and working with both, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think he's the only
uh,
director that served under two different presidents.
that's incredible. One on each side. And for you, what was that like? How did that
And
shape?
by the way, that's like part of, like, so what I just said to you about being apolitical, like, the old man shaped that for me, right? Like, he didn't have a
Yes.
political dog in the fight. His job was to protect the country,
Yes.
serve the office, right? And I
Exactly.
think that gets lost today.
Exactly. So he's involved in chaos.
Yeah, he's the
Maybe we
chairman of
can
the company now. Yeah.
talk a little bit about his involvement, and then
Yeah.
how you growing up with this and growing up really in the business shaped how you view the company and kind of how you're scaling,
Yeah. No, it's an interesting question.
or any good stories. I'm sure there's a lot of good
Yeah.
stories that pop out of
Yeah, I don't talk I don't talk a ton about it. It was a long time ago. But
yeah,
I got to see what national security really meant and what goes into it. Like, the weight of it. I mean, I had my own security detail at 9 years old. And that's not normal. But didn't know anything else. But it all kind of gave me a front row seat to the quiet discipline of people who do serious work and never talk about it. Not the Hollywood nonsense. And that's really how, like, my worldview got shaped, having a front row seat to it, and being able to see real patriots and heroes serve their country.
yeah,
Um, I think, my grandfather was the oldest of seven. Uh, one of
Wow.
my personal
Didn't know
heroes,
that.
helped raise me. They all had something to do with World War II. He and his four brothers all fought in the war, all came home. His two sisters were in the Red Cross. I had two great uncles who were in the OSS, which is the predecessor to CIA, one of whom was Charles de Gaulle's bodyguard. Uh, Two uncles who were in the service. One was a Marine, one was in the Navy, fought in Vietnam. I had a lot of buddies who served. So for me, the mission has always been first and foremost in my mind. I took kind of a roundabout way to get here, putting my own take on it, starting in finance and Allen and Company, then moving into being a direct investor, then founder in the space. But I think the mission for me, the mission for Bo, mission for our company and Brett and everybody is first and foremost for us. And so I think, I think this is a unique moment in time where I feel a lot of us are being called to step up here, even though we're on the private sector side.
Yeah, interestingly, I feel like there's definitely a parallel life where you serve in the military, because I know how much respect you have for all
Yeah,
those
maybe.
guys.
Well, it's funny,
I know
man.
many of your friends are in it,
Yeah, no, it's funny. So that was actually the plan, and you met my wife, who's much better looking, much smarter, way more awesome than I am. We met in college, and then she got a job up on Wall Street, and I was like, well, I'm not letting her go. So moved up to New York, and you and I became buddies as a result too. But that was kind of what that was seriously, that was always kind of the plan in the back of my head. And so
to go into the military. You were planning on going in.
Yeah. But obviously didn't. But I feel like this is kind of my way to give back, to help, to sort of help be part of the critical mission here.
100%. Okay, so let's go back to when you were investing a bit.
Yeah.
ABC, After Valor, when you look at it now, because I think one of the things I respect most about you is the authenticity to what you're building, but also having the respect of invested myself. Being on the investment side gives you a unique perspective, right? As you're building the company, scaling the company, fundraising, bringing on the right partners. I assume that's shaped a little bit of how you've built and capitalized the company. Maybe we can talk about that with Chaos.
Yeah. So I started my career in capital markets at Allen and Company. And so that world's pure pattern recognition. You learn to see where capital's moving and why. What I kept seeing was a gap. And this is when I was second year associate. So the most consequential technology problems in the world were going unsolved because serious money was not flowing into them. Then I went and left Allen and Co. Went and worked at Valar, which is one of Peter Thiel's firms. And I think Peter, he thinks about civilizational risk in a way that most people in finance never will, which I thought was a great training ground. And that's how that's what shaped how I evaluate problems. And then, went to 8VC, built out their defense practice with Joe, with Alex Moore. Alex is on our board, best investor in the game, full stop. And then that's when the thesis really started crystallizing for me. The government was spending hundreds of billions of dollars a year and still could not get capable systems into the field fast enough. And that's not a budget problem, it's a structural problem. And structural problems are where builders have a ton of leverage. And so, the investments I made along the way kind of all pointed in that same direction. And then ultimately, that's kind of what led to actually building these companies from scratch.
Yeah. And then you raised, so your first capital came in, was that 4 years ago?
Yeah. So we raised $95 million seed round early on.
It's funny, when you first came to me, you said you're going to raise an $80 million seed. I thought that you were out of your mind. I'm like, John, that's a good seed round.
Everybody thought I was out of my mind. Actually, I'll tell you what, it was actually Herb Allen who changed my calculus on that. And Herb, I've known Herb for a really long time. And he's somebody, I go to for advice, and he hits me pretty straight about things. And so initially when I was thinking about this, I was saying, Herb, I think I want to go raise a $20 million seed round. He looked at me and he was like, yeah, would you take 100 though? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. He's like, you should probably go do that. He's like, this is going to cost, like, look, man, like these balance sheets, you gotta actually, like, when you're doing this,
You got to do it right.
that you got to no, but you got to balance sheet's a weapon, right? Buys you time. You can hire people that are
Yeah.
very senior. And so that stuck with me. So yeah, we did our initial seed round, about 4 years ago.
And for those that don't know Herb, that's
Herb Allen.
Allen
So Allen and Company is a 100-year-old family-run investment bank. Probably like one of the best firms in the entire world. Wouldn't be where I am without starting my career there. They've been amazing to me and to my family, and some of my best friends still work there. But yeah, he's one of the smartest guys I know. And so it's like, if I'm having a hard problem or thinking through things, like, he's always a good sounding board.
Amazing. And since that seed round, which, we participated in, you brought in some great folks. You've since added several top tier defense tech investment firms.
Yeah. So Excel Partners led our B and our C. I think we were their first U.S. defense investment, actually. So Steve Laughlin, who's senior partner there, known Steve for a long time. I think also, the benefit of having started my career at Allen & Company is I got to know all these venture guys super early on. So we had pretty unique relationships there, but brought Excel on. Obviously 8VC led our Series A. Joe was, Joe's support meant the world. And obviously I think I'm so biased because I love those guys so much that I don't think there was a world in which I wouldn't have let them lead the Series A.
How was that negotiation, being on the other side, previously having been there as a partner?
You should ask Alex. I don't know. I'm not going to comment on that. But it was good. I mean, listen, like, I think with the benefit of having such a long relationship with those guys and them really understanding, because they're really at the forefront of investing in the sector, understanding,
Sure.
understanding what we're doing. They know me, they knew Bo, they knew Brett, right? I think it was a good.
It was kind of your time there.
It
was around that time that they really shifted, and they've now become known more for defense tech, but that was not always the case.
Yeah, we were doing it before it was cool. Definitely early on there, but I think if you look at, Alex Moore and Joe's pedigrees, they started Palantir in Alex's dorm room in 2003, right? Alex is on the board of Palantir. Obviously, Joe co-founded Palantir, hired most of the senior guys there. So I think those guys had really unique insights, and they're really ahead of their time, ahead of the curve. When we started making these, when I was there, we were making these investments and incubating these companies. I think they've gone on to incubate a bunch of awesome companies like Saronic and others. And so, yeah. And then in the most recent round, brought Valor Equity Partners in. They led our Series D. Antonio Gracias joined the board. Think he's like one of the best builders in the world. And, he sits on the board of SpaceX and XAI. He's got a really unique worldview. He's quickly become like a very trusted sounding board and mentor. And so the knowledge transfer, like, Antonio's an N of one mind himself, but if you look at the totality of the firm that he's built there, I think it's some of the best minds in the entire world. And they jump in with us. We've got two of the guys from his scale team embedded with us in our DC office, helping us with a bunch of stuff. So they really get down in the weeds, which I think is really unique. And so I think, and look, he's also here's the takeaway of, Excel, APC, Valor, and so Steve, Antonio, Joe. These are all really mission-driven human beings. They care about the mission. They care about America. They care about our allies, and they understand what it is that we're doing, how complex it is. They're not afraid of it, and I think you really can't put a price on that. And so we're blessed. I mean, it sounds corny, but like we're really lucky and blessed to have these guys in our corner.
Hey, it's all
You
about the
know,
right investors, the right people
yeah, man.
behind the as you
Yeah,
said, if you
totally,
got people that are, too anxious, pushing too hard, too fast, it's not the right alignment. I feel like
totally.
from everything I've heard from you, long-term partners with the right vision, but also, good
Yeah,
people, which at the end of the
yeah,
day matters a lot.
totally. Yeah,
Um,
great board dynamic for sure.
how big is the company today? How many employees, how many offices does Cas have?
Yeah, so we've got offices in LA, DC, London, San Francisco. Um, we are north of 200 employees right now, growing pretty quickly. The bulk of it is engineering and manufacturing talent. This is an engineering-led company, first and foremost. So, um, that's kind of one of our core principles here. And yeah, growing quickly this year.
On the engineering side, this is actually something I haven't talked a lot with you about. Like when you think about AI, there's a lot of controversy recently with Anthropic, with the US government, and then OpenAI stepped in. Um, do you work with these large language model businesses? Any ones in particular? How does that factor into your product roadmap?
We've got a big San Francisco office, a lot of AI talent in it. They're doing a lot of critical work around our products, some of it I can't talk about. Yeah, we've made the conscious choice not to use Claude
Okay.
at this moment in time, so that all gets sorted out. Again, departments are number one customer.
Yeah.
But luckily there are a lot of great other companies out there like XAI. Um, they're they're fantastic, and there's a lot of tools our engineers use. We've got a great head of software and AI. His name's Jeff Stowe. Jeff was kind of an OG Palantir engineer,
Got it.
kind of legendary over there. And so it's basically, whatever Jeff wants, Jeff gets, and whatever his team wants to use, like,
Yeah.
Bo and I say yes. So yeah. But yeah, look, I think, that's a question we get a lot of. What are you guys doing in AI? And so a lot of what we were doing on the AI front were tools that we were building to make our engineers' lives easier internally. And now some of those have turned into products
Sure.
pretty organically.
And what about you? I mean, you got a
Yeah,
big job here focusing on guiding the ship. What do your days look like? What are you focused on?
dude. All the things. Look, I think there's, got to be in the weeds with the troops a
Yeah.
ton, but focusing a lot of my time on strategy, like overall strategy, vision, sales, BD with customers, getting in front of customers, spending a lot of time at the Pentagon, a lot of time at the White House. Trying to make sure that Bo is unencumbered. So any issues that he's having, I want to go solve those issues to keep him on target because he's the best builder, inventor, engineer I know.
Yeah.
And then, obviously fundraising and things like that. But right now we're moving so quickly. And there's so much surge demand for our products right now that, no, Monday does not look like Tuesday, and Tuesday doesn't look like Wednesday. So, yeah,
Just staying up with it. What about outside the US? I know
yeah,
that there's been a push with NATO to,
hmm
all kind of contribute and budget up across the other nations, not just the US. Are we
yeah,
seeing a big uptick across other countries coming in and looking for the
yeah,
same sort of
yeah. We're
support?
we're doing a ton internationally right now. So we're deployed in the Middle East. Doing quite a bit across NATO. Obviously, we have a UK office. One, there's great technical talent in London. Two, we can use that office as a lily pad to get over to NATO countries, Middle East, other places. So yeah, there's again, everybody's sort of got the same worries and the same needs right now, and we wanted to make sure that we have products that our allies can use as well.
Anything that you can talk about on the product roadmap that's up and coming, that's interesting, that's not?
Yeah, so we got 3 radar products under contract right now. We're building missiles, building
Building the
e
missiles themselves also.
yeah, yep,
So you're
low
building
cost
the
missiles.
defense to protect against and map and radar against the missiles, and then you're actually building the missiles as well.
Yep, yeah, sense and kill. So we want to have a fully vertically integrated solution.
And
Doing some
missiles, I
things.
assume the technology, the basis, you know, the thinking on that is of a
Dude, I think
similar
I'm giving you
mentality.
I think that my comms team might kill me. I don't know if they wanted me to talk about that,
we,
but I
we
got a
can,
big mouth, dude. No, I don't care. We should let it fly.
we
But
can
yeah, no,
cut it.
I'm not going to go into the specifics of what we're doing. No, I think it's important for people to understand that, we are answering demands of the department right now.
Yeah.
And so yeah, we've
Probably
stood up.
same logic, smaller, faster, cheaper, as opposed to
Yeah,
kind of what's been built in
exactly.
the past.
Yep. And so we've got a rock star team, building that area, doing things in electronic warfare and electronic effects. And we've got some other stuff cooking right now that I can't talk about, but you'll be the first to know. We have a few cool projects right now that we're working on with the government, and trying to thread the needle on a few things.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like half the time I talk to you, I can only get half information because so much of it's privileged and classified.
Dude, you get it in the quarterly investor letters, which I am party on right now, which I apologize. It's coming out this week.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I guess if you look forward,
Yeah.
You have Palantir that in some way has kind of pioneered the path towards a very successful public company.
Yeah.
You have Anduril that, is kind of knocking on that door, just raised it, call it approximately 60 billion valuation. What's the vision for you? What's the path? Is this eventually a public company, or how do you think about it?
Probably. Not selling it to anybody. So let's start there. I think public markets investors are looking for additional names to trade in the defense space that are not
Seems
the
that way.
Northrops, Lockheeds, and Raytheons of the world. So I think, from a macro perspective, like, we have a pretty good understanding about that. We've got some really great advisors, both, Goldman and JP, and just folks and Allen Company folks that we can talk to about this type of stuff. But we're really just focused on building the best products right now, and getting them deployed in the field. Again, we owe the warfighter the best products in the most expedient manner possible. So that's the focus. Obviously, like we've raised $1 billion in 4 years, and so there's got to be an exit on that at some point. But again, like I was saying about the investor base that we have and the board that we have, they understand that could be 10, 15 years. It could be sooner. But like I said, right now we're really focused on the products, really focused on our products, really focused on the product roadmap, really focused on the end user. And so I think that's kind of like what's monopolizing my time at the moment.
100%. Have you seen anything in robotics that's interesting for
Gecko
you? Like
Robotics. So Gecko Robotics. So my boy Jake Lucerarian, Jake's a good buddy of mine. So this is a shameless plug.
I'm an investor there as well.
No, I know. I know you are. I told him to let you in. No, Jake's a good buddy. And I think if I love that guy, and what he's built. He built that. I think dropped out of college, started the company 13 years ago.
It's amazing.
They just won a big Navy contract. I think like 72 million or something like that. But I think Jake was ahead of the curve. So I think that's the one I'm most familiar with right now. But
I assume that starts to creep into the defense tech world once robotics really kind of takes hold. That'll be a big part of it.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. From manufacturing, from factory perspective, things like that. Yeah, potentially.
Yep. Awesome, man. Well, I think I covered most of what I wanted to cover. We always do a RunRate Rapid Fire, which is a little bit of fun. Take you out of the box.
I think there's there's one thing I do want to hit on before I leave, just like for your listeners. I think Americans and our allies need to understand the margin's a lot smaller than they think it is. The gap between the world we want and the world we could inherit if we move slowly, it's not large, and that gap's closing. I think the good news is like we still have talent, capital, and the industrial capacity to get this right. But this is the decade that decides it. Not the next one, it's this one. So 50 years from now, like I want historians to say that when the moment required, a generation of builders showed up and didn't flinch. And that's what we're doing. And that's what gets us up out of bed in the morning.
I appreciate you, man. I know more than most how mission driven you are. And I think everyone listening understands how important it is right now for the US to have an edge and for our soldiers to have the absolute best product, to go into these situations with. And, I know your team's focused on that. So I appreciate you for that.
Yeah, appreciate you for having me on, man. Did you say rapid fire?
Yeah, rapid fire. We're going to have a little fun here. So RunRate Rapid Fire. I was chatting with our friend Litquidity this morning. And so,
by the way, shout out to Lit. Appreciate him investing. He's made some awesome intros. I want to kick his ass and paddle soon.
That's the first question. Are you more of a cold plunge guy or more of a paddle guy?
All right. So I think I'm like a cold plunge post paddle guy. Now, okay. So actually, no, now that I actually have you and I know how big you guys are in paddle. All right. So our UK team, these guys are like freak athletes, like pro tennis players, college swimmers. They love paddle. Like these guys, dude, these guys go to Spain, like on vacation to go to paddle camp. So I was thinking
that's commitment.
That's commitment. And they're a little annoyed at me right now. And again, it's kind of on me, right? So mea culpa here. We had a big company offsite like last year at this time, and I had the thought, why don't we do a transatlantic chaos paddle tournament? UK, the Hamptons, DC, Miami. So I think, given your guys' connectivity in that world, I think Lit should sponsor something like this for us.
Lit, you heard it here. Let's go, man. We need a sponsorship.
Ask for much. I just blood, sweat, and tears, man.
Do you feel so? Lit's got a lot of confidence in his paddle game.
No, I think I haven't played in a while, but like, I was a Division I lacrosse. Listen, man, I was a Division I lacrosse player, like pretty good athlete, but we've got some freak athletes inside the company here. So yeah, I think we could get something cool going.
I love it. We're going to make that happen.
Yeah.
Next rapid fire, personal favorite company of yours, non-defense.
Ooh. Good question. I don't pay attention to a ton of companies, candidly. Probably Sesh.
Okay.
Joe Lonsdale plug.
Sesh. Okay. Sesh.
You got to give the boys a plug. Our engineers love it. So I got to give the boys a plug.
Whatever keeps them dialed in.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's important.
It's important.
Yeah.
Do you have any, like when you look at aspirational people, books, quotes, anything that you kind of go back on that's like a stronghold for you?
Yeah. Gates of Fire, written by Stephen Pressfield.
Okay.
It's a book written about the Battle of Thermopylae, which is the famous Spartan 300.
I love that.
And I think, what I take the most away from that book, and this is a book, my dad made me read when I was like in 8th grade. Actually, my mom's family's from Sparta. And so it shows, what I love about that book is it shows that greatness comes from enduring hardship, mastering fear, and putting the group above self. So the soldiers in this book weren't portrayed as fearless. They're actually, in this book, they're terrified, but they act anyway, right? In the face of fear, which reframes courage as action despite fear and not an absence of it. And so that's kind of been a book that I go back to. I actually just started reading it again. But that's kind of like the family book that,
Amazing. I'm going to
read our life by. Yeah.
I've never heard of that one. If you weren't building chaos, what would you be doing?
Be doing jiu-jitsu full time.
You know what? I still haven't gotten into it. I used to wrestle. I don't know if you knew that. I didn't know that. Wrestler.
Your ears are nice. You don't have cauliflower ears.
I didn't have a cauliflower ear. I was actually a really good wrestler. I made sectionals in like 9th grade. Yeah, I was.
Dude, the wrestlers are always the worst guys to spar against. It's a disaster.
It's a tough sport, man. The toughest.
Dude, because it's like I can't even get technique. It's just like sprawl and brawl.
Are you still? But it's tough. Are you still practicing?
So I did jiu-jitsu. So I trained under the Gracie family. I trained under Renzo Gracie for like 7 or 8 years in New York.
Yeah.
Did a bunch of Muay Thai there. So Donald Park who's a new partner at Valor, he's a Gracie black belt, and so he's informed me that I'm going to be training again. So I don't think I have a choice.
Are
I
you a
haven't had as
black
much
belt, or how
time.
far did you make it? How
I
does it work?
got like 2 stripes on my blue belt. I mean, they put me through my paces there. Like they that Henzo, the blue basement on 34th Street. They really don't care about the promotional stuff. They really teach you from first principles there, and so it's just like a lot of years to get my ass kicked, candidly.
What do you like? Because I know a lot of people are obsessed with it. What do you like so much about it?
Everybody's equal on the mat, right? There's no ego. I trained with firefighters, with lawyers, founders, trained with Anthony Bourdain, trained with criminals there, like they're gangbangers. Like some of my best training partners there were gangbangers. But everybody on the mat is equal. There's no ego on the mat. And so you're either going to win or you're going to lose, and there's kind of no in between. And then I kind of like the kinetic chess aspect of it.
Yeah, it seems like that's the part that people get really dialed in on, is because it's all sequential, right? It's like the chessboard, of like the moves. Wrestling was less like that. It was just exhausting and tough. But
weight cutting.
Yeah, we didn't have sesh back then, so
dude. It's too bad you weren't friends with Brian Johnson back then, man. I'm sure you could figure something good out for you, right?
Exactly. I needed what I have now. Back then. Cool, man. Last question. In 10 years, where will John Tenet be? I'm actually more concerned about where you'll be living physically. Where are you going to be, man? Is it going to be?
Oh man, I don't know. That's a good question. I'm not in any one place.
We've had debates about the best places to raise families offline.
Yeah,
and, I'm currently in New York City, which is not the easiest place. So we've talked a little bit about that as well. You've made better decisions than I have.
Yeah, it's kind of a bummer seeing, you got a socialist running that city now.
Yeah, not ideal.
But it's still the best city in the world, man. I don't know. New York's still New York, dude. Like, at the end of the day, like, I can't quit it. It's my favorite city in the world. I love it. I lived there for over a decade. Not going to say exactly where I live right now, just for some security issues, but where, I think we got to go get like a mountain compound together, right? We got to get off grid, dude.
I think we got to go off grid. We got to build, like a little.
We need regenerative farming. We need wells. We need Tesla power packs on the walls. Farm to table.
You haven't been to my place upstate. We have a little bit of that going up there. That could be the bunker.
Yeah. And so I got some friends who are out west, up in Jackson Hole and in Sun Valley, and so sounds awesome. But I think right now I'm kind of where the job needs me to be, and so it's like one of those 4 locations wherever our offices are. I still think, again, despite the nonsense that has occurred in California and the fact that California has been running in the ground, I'm still very bullish on California. I still think the best technical talent in the world is in California. For what we do, the best technical talent in the world is in El Segundo and in the South Bay. And so that might be a little bit of a contrarian take right now, considering we've got a lot of buddies who've left and moved to Florida and Texas. But, doing what we do, you kind of got to be there, man.
Well, listen, hopefully, there's been a lot uncovered about some of the waste in spending. If things can get cleaned up, I could be optimistic against that. My wife was just out in LA. She was reminding us that we need to move to the West Coast. But she's actually the one.
No, dude, we can't let you go. Can't let you go, dude.
It's not happening.
You're not leaving
Kids and family and all of it.
Yeah.
But man, look, I appreciate you. I love what you guys are building. Have so much respect for you. Obviously, you and I are good personal friends. But
yeah, man, you're one of my closest buddies, dude. And I appreciate. I love everything you're doing, and not to turn this into a love, gooey love fest, because that's kind of not my fucking style. But
is that why I brought you on, for the love fest?
Keep but no, I think like for me, like watching my buddies do awesome things is really exciting for me, and so I just like watching my buddies win. So
100%,
and I think we're all winning together, man.
I'm with you, and you in particular, just with the importance of what you're building and the impact that you have. It's
Appreciate it.
incredible.
No, I appreciate it.
Good to have you on, buddy. I'll see you
Thanks,
soon
dude.
offline.
All right, pal. We'll talk soon.